Please leave your message after the tone.
Hey, it's your favourite sister, La Ashleen, obviously. You're probably sleeping, but I'm ringing you to remind you not to forget the Tim Tams. I've missed them almost as much as I've missed you. Let me know when you're at the airport. Love you, bitch. Don't forget my Tim Tams. Bye!
Please leave your message after the tone.
Hi. I'm just here with Sophie. This is Leanne, by the way. Obviously. We're looking forward to seeing you next week. We've missed you. I've missed you. It wasn't all in your head.
Please leave your message after the tone.
Brittany found out about us. She went through my bank statement. She's lost it, man. She's threatened to out me. She has like 1 million followers. Those bitches will destroy me. Can you ring me back? Help me come up with a cover story.
I hate packing. I hate everything about it. I always forget something. Even if I write a list and I check everything off. I hate looking for my passport. I hate leaving it in a safe place and then forgetting where that safe place was. I hate looking for my boarding passes. And the panic when the ink from the printer is gone, so you have to get it printed in the internet cafe that's open 24 hours and smells like stale weed. Because that makes me want weed, and I really don't have time for that. Oh, I hate hauling my stuff into the Uber. I hate hauling it all out again. But once I step into the airport, I know I'm going somewhere I want to go. Even if the plane food is shit and the queues drive me up the wall, I'm one step closer to home. Now I know I've romanticised Ballyford to postcard perfection, thanks to homesickness. And that once the jet lag fades, I'll realise that really, it's the same faces talking the same shit on the same stools in the same bar. But it's home. Besides, Granny's been emotionally blackmailing me into coming home for a visit. She keeps saying she's only a few years left in her, when we all know she's going to outlive us all. I'm not coming back to Australia. I haven't told anyone. I want to see their faces when I do. I know Mam will just burst with excitement. And I kind of hope the shock of it will keep their questions to a minimum. I don't want to tell them how lonely I've been here. And I definitely don't want to tell them about Fergus. They wouldn't understand, and they get the wrong idea. And if I told them how it started when I was broke in college, well, they'd kill me. I mean, the first year of college was grand because I had a grant and a part-time job. It was only my second year when things went to shit. My grant got rejected, and I had to get a part-time job in Dublin at the weekends. couldn't ask my folks for money because, well, Granny had a fell earlier that year and they were renovating the shed into a granny flat and they just had enough on their plates. The job I got was in this old man's pub. Weekends and some evenings. If it was quiet, I'd get some study done, but mostly it was spent dodging sneaky gropes and refereeing debates about politics that got way too heated and personal. Mick, the guy who owned the pub, was this big bloke from Meath. He owned shitloads of buildings all over Dublin and was always in the VIP magazine with a gorgeous woman on his arm. He'd pop into the pub for a pint every few weeks. Leah wrapped me over his sunglasses and pat my bum. I knew I'd put up with it because I needed the money. I was broke, exhausted, and angry all of the time, basically. My landlord had raised the rent, and I had to sell my car. And I lived off Tesco noodles for about 2 months. I had lost 2 stone from the stress and malnutrition, and the lack of sleep gave me the look of a Victorian orphan. But everyone told me I looked great. Typical, isn't it? You lose a bit of weight and everyone tells you you look fantastic, even though you could have lost it from sickness or starvation. Tell me your secret, Tara. Oh my God. You look great. Well, I certainly didn't feel great. And my secret was being a stressed out and anxious student who could barely afford to survive in Dublin with its extortionate prices. The only person to ask me if I was okay was Leanne. Leanne. God. How do I even begin to describe Leanne? I met Leanne through Shane, who was in my course, and they used to date, but broke up, amicably like. And they loved each other's company so much that they remained friends. Leanne did admin for an estate agent, and she was saving up to go travelling the world. And she was the funniest, most luminous person I've ever met in my life. Like, okay, you know when someone dies and out of sentiment, everyone says they lit up every room they walked into? That's Leanne. Or not dead, like, but lighting up every room she walks into. I think it's because she's always laughing. She has one of those laughs that you can distinguish no matter how full or crowded a place is. And she laughs with her whole body too. Throws her head back, claps her hands, stamps her feet. You can't help but stop and stare. We'd hide away when we were drunk together as well. In the toilet cubicle in a pub, or in the corner of a beer garden, or in the utility room at a house party. We'd talk about how Leanne was afraid of dying, or how I discreetly spat and mixed drink after he slapped my arse too hard once. We told each other everything. I once fancied my biology teacher in secondary school and sent them a Valentine's card. Love from your secret admirer, XOXO.
I stole foundation from a chemist once and then returned it because the shade was far too light for my skin tone. I looked like Casper.
I think you're like the only proper best friend I've ever had. I love you. I'm in love with you. We kissed for 5 minutes before she gently pushed me off and left me standing there alone. We've never spoken about it, She left 3 months later to go travelling the world, and she promised she'd keep in touch with me at her going away party. I saved every postcard she sent me. After the kiss, I was hurt, I guess. Hurt, heartbroken, hungry, and perpetually hungover. I think that's why I had said yes to Mick when he cornered me in the pub one night. He had been staring a bit longer and a bit harder. The touch is a tad more aggressive. You're a right looker. Young, desperate, and emaciated looking. Just how I like them. I just need you to stand there and make me look good. I'll pay you. No sex. Maybe we could negotiate that in the future. I'm doing you a favour, Missy. Wouldn't want to make things awkward at work now, would you? So that's how it started. I was making so much money, and all I had to do was show up on his arm to some fancy event, simper on cue and look pretty. He took me to premieres at the Abbey, the openings of restaurants, even once an All-Ireland final. Paying me outrageous sums of money to be his arm candy. I didn't have to worry about rent or bills or food anymore. I was saving money. I was a student in Dublin, saving money. Do you know how rare that is? Sometimes I go on to Boohoo and fill my shopping cart with clothes I wanted, just because I could. I never bought any, of course. I was never a big spender, always a big saver, ever since I was a child. When Granny would hand me and Aisling a £5 each to buy ourselves something nice in the shop, Aisling would buy the place out of fizzy cola sweets, and I give mine to Mam to put in my credit union savings account. So after rent and bills and college expenses, I saved most of the money. I used it to emigrate to Australia, and it got me my first apartment I rented. Thank you, Mick, and fuck you very much. Perth was great, really. My job was good. I could afford an apartment for myself. Sometimes I went out with the crowd from work. Obligatory work is all we have in common drinks. I mean, I was lonely. Sometimes I thought, fuck, I've made a huge mistake. Sometimes the homesickness was so unbearable I could barely breathe. Sometimes I thought about coming home. Except Leanne landed on my doorstep one day. She was just sitting there on the curb. A mirage. She had been backpacking through New Zealand last we spoke, and she had mentioned coming to stay with me. Part of me wondered if that was the reason I was holding on. Because I was waiting for her. Leanne! She'd been crying.
I'm sorry, I didn't know when you'd be finished work, and my phone died so I couldn't call, and it was all a bit last minute, and you were the only one I know who was close enough.
Are you okay? What's happened?
I'm fucked up. I'm pregnant.
She had been sleeping with her tour guide in Papua New Guinea and found out he was married on her last day there, and found out she was pregnant in a hostel in Christchurch. On the plane ride over, she decided she wasn't going to keep it. On the Uber from the airport, she changed her mind. After 4 days staying with me, she decided she wanted to go home. She couldn't afford the flight, and her morning sickness was so unbearable and relentless that she couldn't hold down any of the jobs she got. I could only afford to give her half the fare, but it just seemed to jump in price every time we looked for better deals, and time was of the essence. To be honest, I hoped she'd change her mind, fall in love with me, stay with me in Perth, and we'd raise the baby together. Stupid. How to make money fast when you're a single woman living in Perth, in love with your pregnant best friend.
Find hot local women near you.
It took a few hours and bleaching my brain, but I finally found a website that didn't look too dodgy. That's when I met him. Fergus. I never believed in destiny before him. Fergus is a pastor. But like an Instagram influencer, lip-syncing, TikToker, dancer sort of pastor. Follow me and see the light. That's his catchphrase. His followers on social media are more important than the congregation in the pews. And he has an all-American girlfriend, Brittany, with 2 E's, who he does these cutesy couple pranks on, and all their followers gush about how they're #couple goals. And he travels the world and he does these huge talks at these Christian conventions about being a godly man in a godless world and how pornography turns women into whores. He's like a rock star in Bible Belt America. That weekend, I went for my first dinner with him. And when he helped me take off my jacket, he pretended he didn't mean to grope my breast and told me women were designed to be homemakers. That Wednesday, he took me to a brunch meeting and he told the man sitting next to him that I was a fallen woman he was helping find redemption from God. Under the table, his hand was on my thigh, squeezing it tight. It's nice when they come compliant. Good work. I'll be in touch soon. I told Leanne I won the money from a lotto syndicate at work. Please take it. I want you to take it. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I could kiss you. I went with her to the airport the next day. The apartment was so quiet. It had been quiet before Leanne, but after it...
I don't know what to do. I can't tell Mum or Dad, they'd kill me. I can't tell Damien. We haven't spoken to one another since we slept together. It's too much to handle.
Listen, we've all been there before, Aisling. It'll be sound, all right? It'll be grand. Decide what you want to do and I'll be there for you. Every step of the way, I promise. She was so scared. She was barely 20. She was a baby. My baby sister. I couldn't hug her or hold her hand. So paying for her to go to the UK was the only thing I could do. I used the last of the money Fergus gave me. The day she had her abortion was the day Leanne had her baby, Sophie. I want you to be her godmother. Why do people have to bare their hearts and their souls and their innermost thoughts just to get others to listen to them? Why should we have to bear witness to their trauma and then debate whether or not they deserve the bare minimum of respect or human rights? It was a car crash. It was watching women forced to display their scars like they were circus animals. Again, how harrowing, how haunting, how horrific your experience was, in more detail this time. I'm going to prod a little deeper. I'll read out a tweet condemning you. I'll read out some more. Let's play devil's advocate just for a second. You are too calm, too desensitised. You are heartless. You are too irate, too impassioned. You are hateful. You are too weepy, too emotional. You are hysterical. Thank you for your time. You've gone over it. You've shared too much. You've shared too little. After the break, we have someone coming to tell you that you're a dirty woman going straight to hell. We need to balance. Broadcaster rules. I have never felt fury like it. It built up in me this tsunami of rage. I'd wake up in the morning crying, or in the middle of the night, my mouth open wide like I'd been cut off mid-scream. I felt stuck and ignorant and useless. And I watched them tie women like my sister to a stake and light the match. They wanted to see us all burn. I couldn't go home, so I campaigned virtually. And by that I mean I had so many online debates, I ended up being blocked by a half of anti-choice Twitter. And I had carpal tunnel for months after it. Fergus messaged me during that time. He wanted to take me to Melbourne to some Christian conference he was speaking at. I was going to say no, until he told me how much he'd pay me. That weekend, Fergus told me that Ireland and the dirty women on it would sink into the pits of hell for even thinking of the A word. Some of those harlots are beyond redemption. When the 8th was repealed, Fergus rang me and he did some sort of weird exorcism over the phone, because my soul was tainted now. While he was doing it, I was donating his money to the Abortion Rights Campaign back home. It was win-win for both of us. It became a hobby almost. I despised him and everything he stood for. So I'd practice in the mirror at hiding my disgust. I'd play a video where he denounced the LGBT community, or where he protested outside his local Planned Parenthood. And I would just stand there and stare at myself, hiding any quirks or twitches that would give away my genuine responses. I Stepford White myself, and it was worth every last cent he gave me. because I donate it all to the abortion rights campaigns in Malta or Argentina and back home too. I naively thought that once the 8th was repealed, women like Aisling wouldn't have to travel anymore or, be denied their basic human rights. But I was wrong. And it's easy for me really just to sit here, talk about how hard it was for me when I was so physically removed from it all. I didn't go home to vote. I just sat in my room, refreshing Twitter again and again and again. I didn't canvass. But would I have even canvassed if I had been home? Would I have been brave enough for that? I'm from Leitrim. It's small and it's tribal. It's not like Dublin. There, you'd probably never see the person who called you a baby killing bitch on their doorstep ever again. But in my town, they'd be in front of you in the butcher's. They'd drink in the pub with your dad, or their kids would be in school with yours. I wish sometimes I was braver. So that's what I've been doing for the past couple of years. Letting Fergus take me out anytime he's in Australia, taking his money and using it to do what he hates most in this world. Giving women agency over their own bodies. He's marrying Brittany next month. But it's okay. Because he said nothing between us was going to change. Brittany's high maintenance. That's why I don't take her anywhere. I laughed with him. A bit rushed, I said. This wedding. Why so quick? She's pregnant. The ditz knocked herself up. She fucked up with her birth control and refused to get an abortion. It was time to come home. I quit my job. I rang Leanne. I have never stopped thinking about you. About us. Was it all in my head? I made a huge donation in Fergus's name to his local Planned Parenthood. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for all the nuisance and noise I've caused, the note said. I've been a huge hypocrite. But I have seen the light. I messaged Brittany on Instagram. Told her to check his bank accounts and to check the phone he has hidden under the driver's seat of his car. Your kid deserves better. I guess you did. Because he's been ringing me non-stop since last night. But it's okay. Because he only has my Australian number. And I'll be turning that off as soon as I get to the airport. As soon as I get to the airport. I'll be one step closer to home.